Okay, so it's time to get started, you guys. And today we're going to talk about the Becker CPA exam and
the changes.
And so Dr. Smith is going to start everything.
You can start the video there.
Okay. Sorry. It's a short video.
It's a short video. Thanks, Stephanie. There's one.
I'm wondering if we need to get somebody in.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that real quick. Yeah, if you go to, you should be able to go. Here. Yeah, if there's anybody who needs to be in there, you see. Did you get a pop-up?
I just heard a thing. That may be a chat. There's Jonathan. I'm sorry, sorry, Mike. We need you.
We just got, well, others invited, no, but here's it, this is. Request to join, how do we know when
I
we
just
do
sent you a
this?
picture.
Somebody that we need to admit.
It should pop up.
I hope
It didn't
I'll
pop up
send it to
very
you.
I didn't see one when I saw that, but okay.
There was a
Because when I do this, when I do teams, I
good. You can
never,
go there.
they just all can come in, I don't make them ask.
Can't hear anything.
Yeah, that's the problem playing videos on there, but that's,
Okay,
That's my daughter.
okay, now we're ready for one of the videos.
That's my daughter.
Not PowerPoint,
this one's.
yes, that one. Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
She is.
Great.
We have one.
Okay, leading on with that, we're going to now look at a PowerPoint I put together today. I did a little research and I kind of summarized, a lot of this is what was already on that video, but I kind of broke it down into a PowerPoint for you that I'm welcome to share with anyone that wants this too. But the new CPA exam will begin in January 2024. It's a joint effort of NASB, which is National Association of State Boards Association, I think it is. Isn't it?
Accountancy.
Accountancy, yeah. And the AICPA, which is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. The new model will cover 3 required sections, just like you're doing now. You've still got to do accounting, auditing, and tax. BEC is no longer one of the options as of that time, okay? But in addition to those 3 required sections, then each candidate has an option of the three discipline sections that they can choose. And you only take one. So you can do the business analysis and reporting, which is called BAR, the information systems and controls, which is ISC, or the tax compliance and planning, which is TCP. So you have that option depending on what avenue you want to go on in accounting. So I think this is a really good option to have, okay? Why do they need to change the exam, okay? And a lot of you might think, well, why not change? Well, first of all, there's a lot that's happened since it really has had a major overhaul, which has been many, many years ago now. But there's technological innovations that are creating new opportunities. And procedures that historically were performed by new CPAs are being automated or offshored, are performed by paraprofessionals. So some of the normal tasks that CPAs would do typically when they begin a job now are not being done for them. Instead, they're having to do more, what on the next one it says, now entry-level CPAs are performing more procedures that require deeper critical thinking, problem solving, and professional judgment, and responsibilities that are traditionally assigned to more experienced personnel are now being pushed down to that staff level. So you're starting out with more difficult tasks in the beginning now because they are giving it to either it's automated or offshore or performed by paraprofessionals. So now you're starting out with things that in the past more experienced CPAs would be doing. Okay, so that's important to understand. And today, CPAs need to know more than ever they ever have to meet the needs of practice. So the purpose of it is transforming the CPA licensure model in recognition of the rapidly changing skills and competencies like we discussed. It will enhance public protection by producing candidates who have the deep knowledge necessary to perform high quality, meeting the needs of organizations, firms, and the public. It's responsive to feedback as it builds accounting, auditing, tax, and technology requirements. It reflects the realities of practice, which requires deeper proven knowledge in one of three disciplines that are the pillars of the profession. And it's adaptable and flexible, helping to future-proof the CPA as the profession continues to evolve. So those are just some, and this is what they showed on the video a few minutes ago. And as you can see, it's got the core, which is the three you have to take. You got to take accounting, you got to take auditing, you got to take tax. Okay. But then around that, circled around that, are those three disciplines that you choose from. Okay. And that's what they call the core. Now the transition period. What's going to happen to those candidates that have already passed one or more parts before January 1st, 2024? If I was you sitting where you are now, that's what I'd want to know. I'd be like, okay, what's going on? I've got two parts or three parts already done, and now it's 2024. What am I going to do? Okay. So it says candidates who have credit for auditing for a reg on the current CPA exam will not need to take the new ones. They're good. Okay. Then notice what it says about the BEC. Candidates who have credit for BEC on the current CPA exam will not need to take any of the three discipline sections. Okay. Do y'all understand that? So that those three disciplines, you choose one of those three. If you pass the BEC, that covers the discipline section. So they've covered all of it. They've gone it through and covered all of that, okay? So questions on that? Anybody have any questions on that? That I may or may not be able to answer, but I'll try. So it explains the transition policy. A lot of people like to look at it in like a chart or graph or a format like this. It's easier for you to understand, but it kind of tells you. The auditing is part of your core. The FAR is part of your core, and the reg is part of your core, and then the BEC would represent one of the three disciplines. So what does this mean to prospective CPAs? If becoming a CPA will mean you'll need greater skill sets, you'll need greater competencies, and you'll need a greater knowledge of emerging technologies. And I think it was I was trying to remember, I meant to look this up, when they started really putting technology into the CPA test. Y'all remember when that happened? I know it's significant. I can't remember what date it was, but I know there was a date that in I think it was 2004. I think it was 2004. That's when we really started putting technology on the CPA test. CPA should be capitalized. Like I say, I did not prove. I just kind of topped it literally at 10:30 today after I did this. So skills that you'll need: critical thinking, professional judgment, skepticism, problem solving, understanding of the business, including systems, controls, and risk, data management and analysis, and performance of the system and organization controls engagements. Okay. So that's an overview of the CPA test. And obviously, we're going to be talking as professors about, okay, we're really going to dig deep into the changes and what's going on so that we can adapt and change the courses as needed to fit the needs that you will have when you're taking the CPA test, and that you have those skills when you take the CPA test. So for example, when I teach, and I think next year is when I teach the contemporary issues online class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to incorporate for that first time I teach it, it's going to be about all these different changes and all the components. I'm going to break it down to try to give you additional information and training to get you ready for that. Now we're at the Becker that was sent to me this morning by Ms. Claghorn, Father Claghorn. Okay, so this is the agenda, and there's a lot of slides, so we'll kind of go fairly quickly, but stop me if we need to. But we're going to talk about steps to apply, what's tested on the exam, all about the blueprints, the CPA evolution, which I just talked to you about the CPA evolution, tips and tricks for success, Becker resources, take the fear out of the exam. So here are the 5 keys to becoming a CPA. Step 1, meet the educational requirements, which we'll talk about in a minute. Step 2, apply to take the CPA exam. Submit your application. Step 3, study for the exam. Choose your exam review course provider. Create your study plan and study. Step 4, schedule the exam. And you're going to receive what they call a notice to schedule, NTS. We talk about that a lot. That's a really important part of taking the CPA test is you have that NTS, which is the notice to schedule. And then schedule your exam with Prometric. So you take your exams through Prometric. Okay. And then step 5, succeed, take the exam, including the ethics exam, obtain work experience, and then apply for licensure.
We don't have to take the ethics exam in Georgia.
No, we don't. So here are the educational requirements. And it's important because every state's different. You know, they all have their own set of guidelines as far as educational requirements. But in the state of Georgia, the set for the exam, you need to have credit hours of 120. And required coursework, accounting hours is 20 semesters hours above the introductory accounting classes. And then the Georgia required for licensure, you got to have 150. You have to have graduated. So you don't have to have graduated to sit for it, but you have to obviously to graduate to actually become licensed. And then of that 30, there should be 30 upper level accounting classes, or in other words, 10 3-hour classes, 10 or more. And then of that, business hours should compose at least 24 semester hours. And then as far as experience, you need 1 year of work experience. Now, when I took the CPA test, and I don't know if Dr. Bishop and Ms. Hart was the same way, but it was 2 years in public accounting and 5 years in private practice. So everybody worked at a CPA firm, including me, to get those 2 years in so you could be a CPA after 2 years. Well, I'm on the state council for the Georgia Society of CPAs. And I can't remember what year it was, but I was part of the council when we decided to change that. And so that it's now just 1 year of work experience, and it's public or private. It's still directly under a CPA, though. You have to work directly under a CPA.
So an important factor is when y'all graduate with an accounting degree, you're going to have everything you need to take the CPA exam.
Yes.
So you can take the exam right after you graduate from GSW, but then to become licensed, you have to have 30 total hours of accounting. So while you're in school, you might want to take some extra, one extra accounting class, so that you'll, at least one, not just the required 24 hours, so that you'll have
that.
The 30 hours that you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I'm wondering, I'm thinking through this, is if I was a student and I was a senior and I knew I had 3 choices, industry specific for each one, and what electives would you say to take for each one? Because I'd want to say, okay, this is the area I want to try. So for instance, if I want to focus on the tax one,
Right, you want to
or
take
the
the advanced
information
tax.
technology one, is there an industry that fits better? And what electives would I take? Like, I know if I'm going to do tax, I'm going to take both my tax.
Right.
So I'm just thinking through, what they need to think through in terms of their plan for those. This is the unusual piece. What do I take for it?
And then also, you need to think about whether you want to get a master's to get the
Yes.
150 hours, whether you want to get a master's in accounting or a regular MBA. So those are all things that you can plan out.
And you
They
can
don't
come
have
talk with us. As you get closer, you can talk with any of us. We'll be glad to help you through that too. So as you get closer to graduating, feel free to come to see any of us and we'll be glad to help you through that process too, okay? I didn't know this, maybe y'all two knew this, but if you're a short hours, you have not only the opportunity to prepare for the CPA and simultaneously earn up to 9 equivalent semester hours by doing Becker. Did you know that?
I did not.
Did you know that, Carol?
Well, if that doesn't apply to GSW exactly. That's, some schools allow
Okay.
credit for
I didn't
hours.
know that, so, but we don't, okay.
So Auburn gives credit for hours
Okay.
and Georgia Southern does.
Okay,
I don't know who else does.
okay. Well, we'll go past that slide then. You apply online through NASBA, the CPA examination online application system. If you're applying to one of these jurisdictions, and in the blue, and if it's in the yellow, so we're the blue, obviously, and in the yellow, you can contact the Board of Accountancy directly. So it depends on what state you're in, which of those two things you do to apply.
So in other words, the NASBA website has a lot
Yes.
of information about
It
the
does.
CPA exam, and I would recommend, going there beforehand and
Yes.
taking a look at it.
Yeah, NASBA has everything you need to know, okay? And this tells you that the CPA Exam Services Division of NASBA.org, so you're gonna write that down, NASBA.org, because that's where you're gonna go look. And it handles registration and administers the exam in Georgia.
Can you stay on that for real quick?
And that's good, so it's got, an
Thank you.
individual person, you can also, Ally Lambert with NASBA. And it's also got the Georgia State Board of Accountancy also. Okay.
So the Georgia State Board of Accountancy is where he actually certifies you.
Yes.
NASBA is to schedule the exam.
Yes, yeah, and so once you become licensed, then you have to renew your license every 2 years. Application process, again, this is a lot of information, and I guess what's the best way for us to make sure they have these slides, you think?
We can make them available in Georgia View.
Okay, we can do that, okay. But you must have,
Sorry.
No, that's okay. But a lot of this is just information for you to read and that you can click on, and it gives you a lot of information, okay? So we will go to the next one. You can see the exam fees are in the state of Georgia right now are $743 plus the initial $135 application fee. Okay. The re-examination application fees vary depending on the number of sections you're retaking. And notice the schedule. She shows you an example of what it looks like. And again, that's what you have to have. You can't take the exam unless you have an NTS, which is notice the schedule, which they will send you when you go through the application process. So that kind of gives you information. And it tells you that there's a 6-month NTS validation period in the areas of blue, which is what we are. And then you schedule your exam at prometric.com. Okay. And definitely do that ahead of time. A lot of times that gets filled up, so you definitely want to do that way ahead of time. The CPA exam is now tested continuously year-round. That didn't used to be the case when they initially started doing just the online. And it went to online also in about same time, about 2004, 2006, or somewhere in there. It started going online. I mean, it started going to where you actually did it all on the computer versus like when I took the test. We were in a room and we wrote, you had to stay for 2.5 days, and we sat in a room with, hundreds and hundreds of people. And mine was, one time was near the airport, but then that's how we took the test. And so now y'all are so lucky because you only have to take one section at a time, where we took all 4 sections and we're exhausted and crying all the way home because we were just mentally drained. But y'all only have to take one section at a time so you can master one section and then go to the next section. So it's so much better. I wish they had that I wish we had that luxury. So, but take advantage of that. And like I say, just focus on that one section, get it down, then go to the next one.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, this is just talks about Prometric. It's resumed CPA exam testing, but regional centers are following mandated government restrictions. So you would need to check the Prometric website for updates. If you were scheduled in a seat that became closed for social distancing, you should have received an email to reschedule. So they keep you informed of everything. And they gave you guidelines too that you can go back and look at. And this is good. This kind of gives you a study plan. So that you kind of know time frame, how long you need to study. For example, for the financial exam, 130 to 150 hours of study. And then you take the financial exam.
Okay, yeah, let me interrupt here. So one question is, which exam should I take
That's
first?
right. That's right.
So a lot of people have a strategy on which one to take first. They recommend here to take FAR first. And why would that be? It looks like you have to study the longest
Yes,
time
it's
for
the
that.
hardest one typically.
And so if you're having to study for the longest time, get that out of the way, because then once you pass one, your clock starts ticking. You only have a certain amount of time to pass the rest of
Yes,
them.
and we'll talk
So
about
you
that.
take the hardest one first.
And everybody has different strategies. You know the reason I love this whole thing with Becker is because I took Becker, and I also taught Becker for 5 years in the Atlanta area. So Becker is I believe in this Becker review course. It works. I'm telling you, it works. It's really good. But I've had so many students ask me that same question, strategy. And yet that is one strategy, but there are different strategies. It could be that, okay, you want to start with a section you know you're going to ace and get that one out of the way. For example, if you're an audit person, I'm an audit person. If you're an audit person, you might want to take audit first because you know you're going to do good in audit. And that's going to give you that confidence. Then other people say, I want to take the hardest first, which typically is because there's so much information for financial, that's why a lot of people think that's harder. I didn't think it was necessarily the hardest, but it depends on each individual. But whatever the hardest is, you might want to take that one first. Okay. But there are different strategies. So you just got to think about what your strategy is going to be. So you take the first one. Here's an example of taking the financial first, passing that one. Then you study for audit and take, for that one, you can see it's 80 to 100 hours. And then take the audit exam. And then you study for regulation, which is 100 to 120 hours. And then take the regulation. And then study for the BEC. And then take the business exam. So you can see you start studying in January 2021. And by December 2021, you will have finished all the sections. So it just shows you how you can do it in a year.
Okay, so again, you will have finished taking all the sections.
Yes.
The pass rate is just over 50%, so you might not pass every section. You would
That's
just have taken them. So then you need some time built in to retake what you need to retake.
Yes.
And a lot of people say that they study more like 8 weeks for one of these. And what I hear, what people say is 8 weeks times 15 hours a week, something like that. That way, if you can do it, compress it a little bit, it gives you a little bit more time in case you miss one.
And I can tell you, for me, when I took the CPA test, I already had kids. I was older when I took it. I didn't take it right out of college. I worked, had kids and all that first. So when I remember when I decided to take the CPA test, I kind of got my family together, my 2 kids, my husband at the time together. We sat down and I'm like, listen, you're not going to see me much for the next year. And so what I would do is I worked all day long, and then I holed myself in my office and I studied till I fell over sleeping at the desk. And I got the next day and worked, did the same thing. And I kind of did it. And on weekends, it was all about studying. And it was like, okay, this is an investment in your future. So you've got to discipline yourself to do this every week. I mean, you have to do that. You got to make it a priority, but realize it's a temporary priority because you're going to knock it out. And then it's past you. And then you're wonderful. What is that people say about CPA? What does CPA stand for? Y'all heard that before? Mm-hmm. Can't pass again. Because once you do it one time, it's like, no, never want to do this thing again. But I'm just being funny with that. It's really not. Everybody in here will pass it. And if you don't the first time, you just keep trying. I know people, one person that I did my master's with, smartest person I've ever known, truly. We never had a curve because she made 100 on every single test. It just was irritating like crazy. But I did the Becker review course with her. It took her, 5 or 6 times before she actually passed. Because you know why? Because she never had to study. She was one of those that just didn't have to study. And now she had to study. She didn't know how. So it took her like either 5 or 6 times before she finally passed it. Does that mean she wasn't smart? No, she's brilliant. She's very smart. But she didn't know how to study. She'd never studied before. So don't think that it's just going to be a cakewalk for you. I don't care how smart you are. It takes a lot of hard work. Okay.
And I think that it's an academic test. I think Dr. Smith is really telling you this. Don't say, I'm going to work a year and come back to it. it's better to go right after you prepare for it. I'm in the study mode, get it done. Don't put it off. It's worse.
Yes. Yes, it is. It's better to go ahead and knock it out.
So I know somebody that took it 15 or 20 times and they did eventually pass it. So this just tells you that if you put your mind to it,
Yes,
you
you can
can
do it.
pass it. It's just
Absolutely.
determination, really.
Yes.
How long can you, like, if you don't pass the section, how long can you go back and retake
I
it?
think it's 18 months. We'll talk about it in a minute,
Okay.
but I think it's
Okay.
18 months from the time you start, you pass. But that's gonna be one of the slides.
Okay.
So here's a study through exam, you apply, they're giving you, in this case, July to August, then you get the NTS, it's typically within 6 months, then upon sitting for the first section, 18 months to complete the 3 sections. So you have 18 months, once you pass the first section, you have 18 months to pass the remaining. I thought that was still that, so yeah.
Did you have a question?
Yes. You said on another slide that you can now take it year round, so
Yes.
the black bars don't exist anymore.
Yes, that's, I don't know the significance of the bars in this case. It could be an old slide where, because in the past, there were only certain times you could
There were
take
blackout.
it, and there were blackout days. I bet those were the blackout days.
Yeah, it was every 3 months, I think the last month in each quarter of the year.
Okay. So there's this Becker CPA exam tracker that they have that is designed to guide the students through the CPA exam application and planning process. So this comes, if you're a Becker, I'm assuming this comes with it. I don't know a lot about this slide, to be honest with you, because she was here, she could tell you about it. I think this might be a new option that they have in Becker. What to expect on exam day, this is important, okay? You need to present a copy of your NTS, which again, that NTS is so important, and a valid ID. And make sure in your ID too, when you register, make sure that what you have as your address and everything is the same as on your driver's license, and your name is the same and everything. It needs to be the same. I've heard stories of people that couldn't take the test because it didn't exactly match. So I don't know if that's still the case, but still make sure that it's exactly right, okay? Place personal items in a locker. They scan your fingerprints. You have a metal detector scan. Prometric staff is on site for help with issues pertaining to your station. After the exam, your scores will be sent to you via email. I didn't know that. Sent through email now. All scheduling is done through prometric.com.
So there's a Prometric testing center,
Yes.
several of them all
Yes.
over the state that
Yes.
you can choose from.
And there's a lot of them. You don't have to go to the most, you can go anywhere in the state you want to go to take it. And it might be based on availability, because the one you might want to go to may be booked up, so you may have to go to another one. Yes.
Will you be able to see what specifically you get wrong whenever you get your grades?
I don't know what all they disclose and
I
when they
think you just get a grade.
I think you do. I think it breaks it down by topic, the percentage that you got right and wrong. If that's the way it used to be, where they would break it down by topic, but not individual questions, but by topic. That's the way it used to be. Don't know if it's still that way or not. But that's a question we can ask. That's one of those questions we can ask Ms. Clackhorn and we find out too. Passing score. It's so Ms. Clackhorn that was supposed to be here. Her husband taught me Becker. And it's because of them I started teaching Becker, actually. And I remember something her husband said to me, Steve Clackhorn, great man, great man. But I remember something he told me when he taught me Becker. He said, if you make higher than a 75, you have studied too hard. Because all you need to make is a 75, which he said that facetiously, obviously, but you need to study really hard, because making a 75 is difficult. Because you might get your test score back and you have like a 73. I think they even get 74s, don't they? I think.
I'm not sure. They used to not give scores
Yeah.
close to a 75.
Yeah, I think 73 back then, I think the 73 was like the closest they would do to it. So, so 75 is all you need. That's one thing that you'll find that other CPAs that you meet later in life, they will never ask you 2 questions. They will never ask you what your scores are, and they will never ask you how many times you had to take it. Because you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is your CPA. Nothing else matters, okay? So keep that in mind too. Exam can be taken in any state of jurisdiction, and again, 18 months time to pass all 4 parts. All about the blueprints. Okay, this is the Uniform CPA exam blueprints, and it's broken down into content. I wish you was here for this part. Content, organization and weighting, skill allocation and weighting, representative tasks, and references. So let's go through these and see what they are. So this gives you a summary. So for the summary blueprint, content allocation, you've got 1 ethics, professional responsibilities, and general principles, which is 15 to 25%.
This is on the audit section.
Yeah,
So in
yeah.
each section,
Yeah, the very top you can see is audit.
they tell you what the breakdown is
Yeah.
of what kind of questions are in that section.
So it's a range because it depends on your test. Okay. So, but those are the 4 areas that they talk about in audit. So ethics, professional responsibilities, and general principles is between 15 and 25%. Assessing risk and developing a planned response between 25 and 35%. Performing further procedures and obtaining evidence, and obviously that's 30 to 40%. So hello, you know, the second and third one especially. I mean, obviously you're going to study these 4, all these 4 a lot, but if you're given the weight, you're going to kind of know, hey, I need to study the second and third one maybe more than the first and fourth one because there's more on the test relating to that. And then it gives you the skill allocation also for auditing. So this is the auditing one. So higher order skills, and then again, we're talking about all of these, critical thinking and so forth. So here's the skill levels: evaluation, analysis, application, and remembering and understanding. Here's exam structure for audit. So you can see it breaks it down by content covered, and then it tells you the skill level for each, and you can see the second and third one requires all 4 of the skill levels. Okay. Whereas the first and fourth only require the first 2. The expected study time between 80 and 100 hours. And then here's another way they break it down for you as far as the 4 different areas.
So the Becker book divides it into these 4 sections, and then it further divides it into other modules. And so it's easy when you're going through to study for it to make sure you cover one module at a time. And they give you questions from prior tests. And so they give you the answers to those and why that's the answer. So the study materials they have, like for audit, it's a book about this thick that you go through, you know.
And she's sending me the most recent books too, by the way. I haven't gotten them yet, but she sent them to me. So if you want to look at what they look like, then, you know, wait a little while, but come up and see me sometime in my office. You know, I'm upstairs now. If everybody wants to visit me in my office up there, which I encourage visiting, I try to keep candy up there for you and apples and water. So if you want to come see me, I miss everyone. So come on and visit me. But I'm gonna have the books up there soon. So that way you can kind of skim through them and see what they look like. Okay.
And it used to be that Becker, if you did a certain percentage of the homework and attended a certain number of the classes, if you have to sit for another piece, you don't have to pay for the Becker.
Right. It was 100% homework.
Right, so it's like you, as long
Yeah,
as you're
'cause I did
doing
that,
the
and I got
work, you don't have to
100%,
keep writing the check for Becker every
Yes.
time.
Yes. So yeah, if you do it, and I don't know if that's still the case. We need to write that down as one of the questions.
It's still there.
It's still there?
Okay, good. Good. So when we look at this, and this is important to know, if when you sit down and take the test for each section, you have what they call testlets. That's just what they call the different sections, or testlets. And for audit, you're going to have 72 multiple choice questions where you're given 90 minutes. And then you're going to have 8 TPS questions, which is task-based simulations. That's what it stands for. And that's 150 minutes. Okay. And it kind of gives you per question how long it should take you, which is good too. But then if you look at those 5 testlets, you can see that the first 2 have to do with multiple choice questions. Okay. So you finish the first one, then you go to the second one. It's not like you go back. You finish the first, go to the second, then you go to the third, then you go to the fourth, then you go to the fifth. And then the last 3, the testlet 3 is 2 task-based simulations, and test 4 and 5 are both 3 task-based simulations. And one thing too, task-based simulations also started in the 2000s, but I don't remember when. But I know when I taught it, it was when I taught it in Atlanta. We were already doing it, so I can't remember what year it started. But it's where you're actually, well, first of all, you're going to have at least one research question that you got to do. But it could be where you're working out what kind of like problems you do in class, you know, in auditing. It could be a problem similar to that. But the great thing is, if you take Becker, or any other review course for that matter, I'm sure, then they're going to give you a lot of examples of prior tests of what task-based simulations were like. So you're gonna work through as many as you can. We'll work through them over and over again. But it gives you, again, this is a great slide because it kind of tells you for each test how much time you have to complete each one. And this is financial. So now we've looked at auditing, now we're looking at financial. Okay, for financial, again, you've got 4 sections. You've got your conceptual framework and financial reporting. You got select financial statement accounts. You got select transactions, and you got state and local governments. And you can see in this case, there's no evaluation skill level, but there are the first 3 for the first 3 contents, and then 2 for the last one. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, one of the electives that you have an option of taking is governmental accounting, and you can see that it's about 10% of this one section.
Yes.
So that's when you can kind of think, oh, do I want to take that elective or not?
It depends too on if you're going to do your master's. If you take your master's, you can take it. Like I took that class for my master's. So when I got my master's in accounting, so it really can depend on if you're going to get your additional hours, in another way, or you're going to go do your master's. Okay. So keep that in mind too. And again, when you're getting close to that and you want to talk with one of us about your plan, we welcome you coming to talk with us, and we can kind of help you plan and map out how you can get to that CPA test and what you need to do. For financial, you're going to have 66 multiple choice questions where you have 90 minutes to do it. You're going to have 8 task-based simulations. And financial, like I say, of all the sections, financial covers the most material. Think about it. Financial, how many intermediate classes do you have? Okay. Now think about all you learned in those intermediate classes. Okay, there's a lot of information. It's just a lot more material you have to cover and study for financial, which is why a lot of people like to knock it out first, because I don't think it's necessarily the hardest, but I do think there's more material that you have to study. So keep that in mind. And so you have 8 task-based simulations. So you got 5 testlets still. So you got the first 2 are both multiple choice questions again, half on the first one, half on the second one. Testlet 3, you got 2 task-based, and then 4 and 5, you have 3 each. And here's regulation. Okay. So here's regulation. So for regulation, you've got ethics, professional responsibilities, and federal tax procedures. You've got business law. You've got federal taxation of property transactions, federal taxation of individuals, and federal taxation of entities.
So when you look at this one, half of it is tax.
Yes.
And so that would be for us, the individual tax and then advanced tax or business tax.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's why we kind of recommend that you take that advanced tax or business tax class.
Yes. And that's another one of those classes that I got. I'm an advocate for getting master's in accounting, because for me, there's so much that I learned in my master's that I had covered that I did not get in my undergraduate too. So it's a great area. It's a great thing to do to get your master's in accounting, because you are able to cover a lot of this additional information also. It gives you the expected study time and so on this. And you can see on this, there's no evaluation, but the skill levels kind of breaks down for your skill levels. And then for this, again, you got 8 task-based simulations again, and you got 76 multiple choice questions. And you can see they're similar. They're broken down half and half in the first 2 testlets for the multiple choice. And then the last 3 are 2 for the testlet 3, and then 3 and 3. They're very consistent. Then you got business. And this is corporate governance, electronic concepts and analysis, economic concepts and analysis, financial management, information technology, and operations management. Okay. And a lot of this changed, like I say, when they really put in a lot about technology. And then even if you, in the last 5, I was on a task force 5 or 6 years ago when there was changes at that time with the Georgia Society of CPAs, and I had to review the changes for the CPA test at that time. So they're always getting input from from different societies of CPAs by state to find out what is needed and get input. But this gives you, and you see it's 80 to 100 hours. And then again, in this case, though, you only have, you got only 7. Now you got 4 task-based because you've got written communication tasks. So this one's a little different from the other ones. So first of all, you got 62 multiple choice questions. They're in the first 2 testlets, half and half. And then you've got 5, that's 5 task-based, and then 3 does it say 5 task-based, but it's showing only 4? Am I missing something there? Y'all see that? Well, it says 5 task-based, but it only shows 4 task-based. So I don't know if it's 4 or 5. You want to put that down as a question too, so we'll have that. I don't know. But then there are 3 written communication tasks. So you actually have to do writing in the section. Okay. So you have to practice that because you have writing in that section. Flexible learning options for the Becker. So we'll go through these now. Simulated exams. These are really good for Becker. You have 3 simulated exams per section. It's the same timing and format as the CPA exam. So they mirror the CPA exam. And also they put questions that were prior questions on the CPA exam. And I can tell you when I took Becker, I practiced them over and over and over, because I'm all about, I'm about repetition. So I practiced over and over and over and over. And when I took the CPA test, there were questions that I had studied that were on the CPA test. Okay. So that was like, yay. When I look at those, I'm like, yes, I know this one. I've studied this one. So, but I love the fact that they have it all fixed. It's very similar to how you're going to take the test. So that's really good. So you're going to go in prepared, because if you do the Becker, because you'll have already done some that are very similar to it. And so you'll know the format, you'll understand the format. But it gives you the new questions not used within the course. Simulated exam 1 is a comprehensive review. Simulated exams 2 and 3 replicate the content weighting and skills levels to the CPA exam. And it also gives you your strengths and weaknesses after you take yours, so that it'll tell you what you need to work on, which is really good. Skill master videos, they got more than 400 examples that cover the knowledge of how to deconstruct problems, problem solving and time management strategies, and tips on applying concepts in real world situations. So they give those step-by-step videos that coach you through your simulations, especially the task-based simulations, because those are the part that might scare you a little bit when you go in, because you don't know what you're going to be asked. You don't know what type of simulation it's going to be. It can be anything. So they help you with that. Personalized learning, it's called Adapt to You technology. This is powered by, and this is brand new because I don't know this, powered by Santa Labs, award-winning AI delivers personalized dynamic learning. It constantly assesses your knowledge. It tailors student study areas for improvement. It's personalized review sessions at the end of each model that show your strengths and where you can improve. And there's a pre-assessment to determine what you already know to optimize your study time, which is good.
So the practical application of this is, as you go through the exam, if you do well in one area, then they're just going to quit asking you those questions. And then if you do poorly in another area, they're going to keep drilling that until you.
So that way you're not restudying things you already know.
That was huge for me. It really was, because once you know you've got to prepare for it, you don't want to spend your time on the things you've already got. Or be overconfident for the ones that you don't. And so that, I had to add that on when I was studying to the Becker books, but now they've built it into Becker.
And there's different ways you can do Becker. I don't know if the slides go into this, but you can do it live in person, or you can do it on the computer only, or you can get books and then combination of books and the computer.
And so video, there's people that do videos online. I taught face to face. And there were like locations all over Atlanta. I taught at UGA campus. I taught all over the Atlanta area. I mean, in fact, on any given weekend, I might be hopping from one place to the next,
So depending on where you are, you may not want to go to Atlanta, because basically it's just Atlanta.
Right. And I don't know the closest one from here, to be honest with you. Is it Atlanta? Okay.
Probably, I mean, Tallahassee might be a little.
But I mean, you're so used to online everything. I mean, to me, like I said, there's so many options. So you don't have to do the face to face.
I'm sorry, I mean, how often do they meet? For when I did it, it was every weekend.
Yeah, well, it depends. Like, it could have been, like when I taught, sometimes it'd be like Tuesday and Thursdays, or Monday and Wednesdays, or the Saturday, whole Saturday morning, or sometimes I did also, like, they do things too, and I'm sure they still do this, and I can't remember what it's called, but at the very end, it's like a crash session where sometimes I'd stay overnight. They'd actually pay for me just to stay at the hotel, and I would do it all Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Be like all day, every day, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. nonstop, with only an hour for lunch and very few breaks, and we went right through. And that was like cram sessions, and that was exhausting for me, so I know it was exhausting for them.
That's a window. It's not your whole life.
No, but it's worth it for that.
You get through it, and then you're done.
My suggestion would be do a cram session, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks or so before you take the exam. Do that cram session and make sure you really got it all. I think that's a really good option. And there are a lot of people that did that too. I've taught a lot of people this cram sessions. Practice with a real CPA exam software highlight. So this gives you, and again, if she was here, she could explain all this to you. But basically, a lot of it's what we've already talked about. It's very intuitive, so it knows your strengths, it knows your weaknesses, it knows how to help you do the very best you can do. And that's because of technology now that they have this software that can help you with this.
So this is on the simulation. You know what the simulation is going to look like because they practice it that way.
And this is an example of when you're taking an exam. Kind of gives you an example of what it looks like. It's like a screenshot of auditing. This is auditing, Teslet 1, Teslet 2, I guess, maybe. I can't tell by this what it's looking at. Is Teslet 3. And it kind of just gives you a snapshot of what it looks like. So you kind of have an idea. And same thing there. Yeah. And these are additional features. You got unlimited practice tests, smarter study and structure, expert instruction, one-on-one academic support, one-on-one academic tutoring, skill practice modules. So you can, for one-on-one academic support, notice that you can submit a case and get a response within 48 hours. For one-on-one academic tutoring, up to 5 personalized one-on-one tutoring sessions with our CPA certified instructors. So that's all, some of that's new. Tips for multiple choice questions, obviously practice, practice, practice. Determine the call of the question. I talk about that all the time when I teach. You always want to determine the call of the question. What's the question asking you? What is it asking? Hone in when you're reading a question. What is, because it could give you, I'm going to tell you what, on the CPA test, it can give you a lot of distractor information on the question, which just means information irrelevant to the question, the call of the question. And you got to know that. And you got to understand what's important and what's not in that question. So understand the call of the question. And so when you're studying those multiple choice questions, think about these things. Ask yourself, what's the call of the question? Read all 4 choices, because what if the 4th one's all the above or none of the above? I mean, how many people will you read that first one? Yes, that's it, but you don't read the rest of them. You can miss the question because it could be all the above, which would be D, and you see A is the answer, so you do A. So make sure you do POE, process of elimination. In Becker, they teach, when I started training to teach Becker, that's like they said, POE, talk about POE every time you teach. POE, process of elimination. So make sure you eliminate all the answers you know are not true. Because a lot of times by doing that, you can knock out at least 2 of the answers, then you're a 50-50 shot, which is a whole lot better than a 25% shot. Control the amount of time you spend on each question. Do not spend too much time on each question. It's not worth it. You're spending, so keep yourself, and the way you can really master this is to do all those practice exams. Time yourself. Make sure you're alert as to how much time it's taking you, and keep track of that. Say, okay, if there's 21 questions, I'm going to make sure that I've got this much done by this time and this time. Yes.
Are you timekeeping for yourself, or is there like a break after each testlet, or after?
You have, I don't know if they have it on here, I don't know if it's the same, but I know it used to be that you're given you can take a break, but I can't remember. Y'all help me,
Like
guys.
on one of the last slides, it said testlet 1 and then break, but time keeps going. Testlet 2.
That's what I was going to say, because when I used to teach Becker, and I don't know if it's the same, but you could take a break, but the time kept running.
So it was like after testlet 3, I think.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that's why I'm not sure of that. That's another question. Would you want that right down to ask? Okay.
Students need to take an exam.
I'm not sure if you can take bathroom breaks either.
Yeah, that's what I don't think you can. I think you can, but it counts. Well, I
It's
think,
not to be able to get up to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I don't
Because
know
in
that.
that way,
yeah. Those are, we'll find those questions out, because I don't know what's changed and everything. So I don't know. That's a good question, though. Answer every multiple choice question. Even if you run out of time, go do something. If you got 10 left to do and you got 2 minutes left, then hey, at least do something. That's what I say, answer every multiple choice question. And then utilize the unlimited practice exams, because that's how you get ready for the CPA exam, is practicing those exams that are out there for you.
so the questions on the exam are more complicated than the questions that you guys have in class, by a much higher degree.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
much more complicated. So it takes a while to get through the questions. You really have to know the information pretty well to do well on it. And which means that you're not really going to have extra time, honestly. You're going to struggle to get finished.
You are. And I'll be honest, I can't even imagine taking the CPA test without a review course. Whether it's Becker or somewhere else, you need a review course because you got a lot of information and you need guidance. So it's an investment, okay? This is an investment in your future. You all need to take the CPA test and you all need to take a review course of some type. Again, there are different ones. I'm not just saying Becker's the only one because there are other ones out there that are also good. I'm just prejudiced because I took Becker and it's really, and it does have the best rate, pass percentage rating, so.
I'm gonna kind of skim through these right
Okay.
here because we just have 10 minutes
Yeah,
left.
exam day tips, make sure you have the directions to Prometric test site, do a test drive prior to it to make sure you can get there in time, arrive at least 30 minutes early and dress comfortably. I don't know what this is, Becker's Accounting for Empire Games, so I'll have those slides and you can look at them. These are, you can also do the CMA and the and then when you become a CPA, then you actually have to keep up with, you have to have so many hours of CPE each year, which is just like additional training, basically, to keep your license updated. You have to have CPE. You can also do a CPA exam 14-day review demo. And there's becker.com/CPA demo, where you can do a 14-day review demo for that if you're interested in that. And there's also a CMA one also. And that just gives you information about Becker. It's 1 million plus candidates, the top 200 accounting firms on Becker for their staff exam preparation. More than 90% of Watts Sales Award winners prepared with Becker. I remember a few years ago, the top 100 scores in the entire nation, all 100 were Becker graduates. Or Becker, they took Becker, all 100. Because when I taught it, that was one of the things they said, tell each one. I always tell it every session, so they told me that. So I don't know when that year was, but that was the case. And there's Bobby Blackmorn's information for Becker. So do you anybody have any questions? Did this help you? Do you have questions for me about it? Like I say, I'll have the books in, hopefully in the next week or two, I'll have books in my office too, if you want to come by and just skim through and look at them and see what they look like. Okay.
The CPA exam and the CMA exam, I can't remember, but doesn't it, Dr. Smith, once you pass certain parts of the CPA exam, you don't have to sit
That's
for
right.
all the parts
That's
of the
right.
CMA?
That's right.
So-
yes,
That's a great goal.
it is. That's why you take the CPA first, because then
Get
if you pass the CPA, there's either 1 or 2 sections that are exempt in the CMA that you don't have to take.
So it's like 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, so now is the good news, the very exciting news. Are y'all ready for this? Becker is really good to us.
Yes.
And they have said that they have 2 things that they want to offer. One is we typically have an ambassador who is a student representative who kind of recruits for Becker, basically.
And here's information y'all can pass around and see all the advantages of it too.
So the student ambassador just has some tasks. They interact with Becker. They kind of coordinate with other students with Becker, and they're just really advocating for Becker. But why would you want to do that? Because they give the student ambassador a free review course
Yes.
at the end of their time.
And it looks great on your resume.
Yeah, so we're looking for basically a junior to do that.
Mhm.
And if you do that,
3.0 GPA.
then you get, you can let us know if you're interested. Then if you're selected, then you'll do that for basically a year and a half or so. And Becker will give you a free review course when you're ready to do it. Then the other thing that we're looking at is Becker has just decided they are just going to give away 2
2.
review courses to,
It's usually just 1. They're letting us have 2.
yeah. So what we're trying to decide is how to determine who gets these, right? So if you're interested, if you think you're going to take the CPA exam, we've had people do this before, and I mean, it's a great deal for them because they're able to take.
It's like
the review course for free.
$3,000 to $4,000 for the review course. They can give you an idea of how much you'd be saving.
But we get a discount on that,
Yeah.
and they run sales all the
Yeah,
time.
they do.
So you don't always have to pay that much, but it's really worth it.
Yes.
You can tell all 3 of us did Becker.
Yes.
There was a time when Becker was like basically the only
Right.
or the best
Yeah.
or whatever.
Everybody
Now
did
there's about, maybe
There's other
4 others, but still Becker has a really good reputation And there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's the best, I think.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
Okay, so let us know,
Yeah, any of us,
in
just let us
class,
know.
let us know if you're interested in being the ambassador and if you're interested in getting the free test. I mean, the free,
Yeah,
everybody's gonna be like.
I mean-
can tell you right
Well, not everybody's gonna take the CPA.
Yeah,
test,
don't
let's be
do it
honest.
Unless you really
yeah.
think you're gonna take.
It's only people serious about taking the CPA test.
Yeah,
If you're not
really
gonna take it or you're just thinking about it, then I wouldn't do it right now. We only want people that are gonna
Okay.
take the CPA test.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so any other questions?
Also, I have, before I forget, we have an opportunity at a car dealership in Leesburg. They need someone full-time, like right now. And they're willing, if you're in your last semester, to work with you, but they're having someone that's leaving, and it is a great opportunity. They've reached out to me, and I've reached out to some of you already, but I'm telling you right now, it's a great opportunity for someone. They have hired 2 of our graduates in the past, and they loved our graduates so much that they really want to hire from us. I have the link. I'll send out the link. I have the link where you can apply for it, but
Just if
also
you're
let me know.
interested.
But
If
let
you're
me know.
interested, let us know.
Yeah, because
Then
we
there's-
can tell them.
Then there's there's a CPA firm that wants to hire a staff accountant in Albany pretty soon, within the next month or 2. Then there's another firm in Albany, the forestry consultant. They want to hire 3 people. Malden and Jenkins has let me know that they're hiring now for staff accountants and for interns. We've got 2 people applying for an internship there within the next week. But, you know, so there's a lot of opportunity. If you are interested in a job,
Yes.
just
Please
let us know where and what
Yes.
kind of job, and then we can help you.
Because we want to work with you, we want to help you, either internship or a job after you graduate. I mean, we want to make sure that you get a great job. So you need to reach out to us and let us know all this information about where you want to work and things like that, and when you want to do it. If you want to do an internship, when you want to do it, what's the location? Because sometimes it's a little ways you have to drive. Are you willing to drive to Macon? Are you willing to drive to Warner Robins? Or because we're getting all types of internships. So you need to let us know that so that we can work with you, okay?
Any other questions?
It has to be different.
Okay, so make sure you sign that paper because this is part of your grade in my class. So,
And remember, you get extra credit from me when you write a summary in my class.
So when you're a junior,
Okay.
it's usually when you do.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm right there.